What's up, guys? TruckDriver101.com. Big Ken here. Uh, if you are new to trucking, you can go to YouTubeTruckers.com and get my audiobook. Now, in this one, I am going to talk about this podcast, my 10-year career. I'm going to start by stealing this idea directly from Jay Canal. Go to Jay Canal. He is the Jay-Z of trucking. He's your truckers. He's a trucker vlogger. He is I can't think of the comedian's name who's like that. He's basically the Jay-Z of truck vlogging. Everybody loves Jay Canal. Okay? He's the guru. He's the man. Okay? He's the coolest dude in town. So I'm still in this idea. What Jay did, and I'll link it at the bottom of this video, I'll give you a link on the podcast. But what Jay did is that he did a video talking about when he first got into trucking. So I am going to steal that. But I'm going to be very honest about it and promote Jay so everybody understands this is stolen. This whole idea is stolen from Jay Canal. I stole this idea from Jay Canal. He is the guru, the genius. I want you to go check Jay out. He's funny. He's talking about precious metals lately. Follow him on Instagram. Right, Jay Canal. Check him out. See, I try to show love. When you steal from somebody, you got to show a little love. You know what I mean? You got to show a little love. Okay, guys. So, pretty much when I started in trucking, it was 2005. 2004. Um, it was about in February. I had gotten laid off from my second real job, my first real job. And I was 24 years old. Wow, that's a long time ago. I was a young whippersnapper. And as a young whippersnapper, I had gotten sick of being general labor. Like most young cats, I had learned how to cut meat, working in a meat place. I got laid off from there and went to Disney World on vacation because I had planned to do that. And I decided, you know what, I'm going on vacation. And came back and had to figure out what to do because I was sick of general labor and nothing was really popping. Nothing was really going. Nothing was really happening in Detroit. During that time, we kind of had that boom where everybody was buying a house and everybody was doing, all types of stuff. People buying houses, dudes opening up, fix-it companies, and loans are flowing out the door. And I decided I didn't want to be general labor anymore. So I started researching trucking. So what it led me to was a black guy who owned a trucking company. I think it was off of, I don't remember where that place was. But anyway, I called him and talked to his secretary, and she was like, well, you should come in for our seminar. Our seminar is just wonderful, honey. Our seminar is just magnificent. Oh, you should come in for our seminar. So, being a 24-year-old, I went in for the seminar. And because I didn't even research trucking schools or anything, I just jumped up and was like, hey, a trucking school's a trucking school, right? Like a fool, of course. Um, so pretty much went there and pulled into the parking lot. A bunch of brothers and sisters all up in there. It's Detroit, There's a couple Spanish cats in there, some Arabs, looking like Detroit. Everybody brown, beige, and beautiful. And there's a couple white. It was like maybe one, two white guys, but it's mostly black folks. And I'm kind of looking at it like, this don't look like trucking. Like, when you think of truck driver, you think of country. I kind of expected a white country kind of guy, and I was like, well, yeah, it's Detroit. I guess, you would have that. Like, because until I decided to become a truck driver, I really didn't look at people who were truck drivers. You know what I mean? I didn't stop and go, what do truck drivers look like? I just went with the stereotype that they all country boys and they're all, speak with a southern drawl. That's kind of what I expected. My stepfather was a truck driver, and I still thought that way, which is funny. But anyway, went there. There's a bunch of black folks there, and a couple brown folks and everything. And we sitting all around, waiting on this seminar. And the guy comes in, and you got to understand at this time there was a couple of layoffs from factories. So the unions had been shuffling people around to different union jobs. So he told us all about that, of course, first off the bat, you know. So we all hyped up. So how the meeting basically started, let's go back to that part. How it all started was he basically was like, look, you know, GM, Ford, and Chrysler had some shutdowns. They got these guys into car hauling at the time for a company called Casson Transportation. That's in Michigan. And the company called Casson Transportation basically fast tracked these guys to get into trucks because normally Casson doesn't take rookies, and they were basically rookies, and they got them in. And they were making this. You got to remember, this is 2004. This is before uh, mandatory computer logs. So everybody's running paper logs, and we're also using the old hours of service. Now, the old hours of service, you could stop for 2 hours, stop your clock for 2 hours, stop your 14-hour clock for 2 hours. For those who don't know, you want to understand that, go online, look it up. I've talked about hours of service, but you stop your 14-hour clock, taking a 2-hour break, and then you could literally start it up afterwards. And I know that doesn't make sense if you haven't done trucking, but once you get into trucking, you'll understand how amazing that is. Now that was back in the day, but so people were making money hand over fist because everybody was running illegal. Okay, and the hours of service were really hard to understand. The original hours before the current hours we have now, they were really, really hard to understand back in '04. So nobody really knew what the hell the hours of service were, and people just ran what they ran. People had a general understanding, kind of. Um, Now it's way better, but there were guys making money easily. You know, they were running illegal, you know, doing everything. I mean, some guys, you know, they were making $150,000 a year. That's how illegal they were running. Okay, you legally you can't really do that, but they were running illegal as hell. So anyway, he's telling us about that. He's not telling us, you know, they running illegal. You know, when I look back on it now, the only way they was making that 100 and something thousand was to run illegal. And afterwards, you know, he's like, you know, there's government programs. And I started to realize halfway through his whole spiel that really what he was doing was the government back then was trying to cut down on welfare, especially in the ghettos, in the hood, in the black community. And they was trying to cut down. And so they decided, you know, what we're going to do is get these people in the truck driving because there's a big openings there. And that was a great idea. But of course, you know, there were companies like his company that was trying to take advantage of that. They were trying to get in as good as they could to take advantage of that situation. And the problem with trying to take advantage of that situation is that, you know, you end up with, you know, 6 months waiting for the government to approve you. You end up with deals that you'll have to pay for. You know, you'll pay for trucking school depending on whether you stick with the first company a year. And pretty much what he was doing, it was either signing you with a contract with the government or signing you a contract with a company. That was kind of screwed. But I started to realize this is probably not for me. But let me sit here and continue to gather information. So during his little speech and spiel, I don't remember it specifically, but he pretty much said that, you know, this is your opportunity. You can make as much money as you want. You can be as successful as you want. And there's no barrier. I mean, 8 weeks, I think it was like 4 weeks at his school or 8 weeks. He said, even if you don't go with us, you could probably be in a truck within 2 months. And you'll be making at least $40,000 a year. Now, that is not necessarily true because, of course, he didn't explain miles pay and everything, but you know, it was a great spiel for people in that room who were coming off welfare, people who were leaving factories and had got laid off by GM and didn't have the seniority to get, you know, the hookups like many other guys got when some of them got laid off. You know, if you worked a year or 2 years at GM, Ford, or Chrysler, you kind of screwed if they do a layoff. You know, you don't have seniority. You know, you don't have that connection. Nobody's gonna go out their way over at the plant down the street to get you in. You know, that's for the guys with 20 something years of experience and connections. So he basically ends the speech with telling us, you need to be patient, fill out all these government forms, and we'll see what happens, and we'll call you back. It may take 3 months, it may take 4 months, it may take 5 months. During this time, I have no job. So I don't have 3 months, I don't have 4 months, I don't have 5 months. I think I was down to the last few months of my unemployment, and I had worked a job as in cutting meat again, but they had dropped me because they hired somebody with experience, this chick who knew exactly how to cut meat way better than I did. And honestly, I was looking around the factory I was working at, the meat place, and it was just full of illegal immigrants, basically. And I was like, why am I doing this? I mean, it's just no money in it. It's like I'm arguing with people here. It's just, it was literally the worst, one of the worst jobs I ever had, and it was just bullshit. So I start researching the guy who had filled out all the forms and all the government forms for. I started to look at the government forms they had given me, and pretty much I would have ended up having to lie. I would have ended up having to lie. And then also from talking to his students, he wasn't dedicated to getting you in a truck. He was dedicated to getting you through that government program so he can get some money off your ass. He didn't seem to give a good goddamn whether you got in a B truck and was hauling for Home Depot, and that whole $40,000 a year thing wouldn't probably go together on that one, or hauling for, Joe Blow somewhere hauling a B truck. So you could basically go train in a semi truck if you want, but I could tell when he was talking, he didn't have any patience for it. So I decided at that point I needed to go somewhere else. So I went to USA Truck Driver School, and they had a meeting there. And the recruiter was, he saw this 24-year-old fool and had me. Because the first thing he came out of his mouth was, we got a simulator. And I just, a simulator? They've got a simulator. And I thought, that simulator, you know what the simulator is going to do, right? It's going to simulate trucking, and it didn't work worth a goddamn. In fact, 90% of the time, I used a simulator one time. Literally, I chose this school because he told me all about this simulator, how amazing it was, and how after 3 weeks in the simulator that you could just be driving a truck and it's going to be so realistic and it's going to be so magnificent. And he gave me this spiel about how great it was and how magnificent it was. That thing broke down the first time somebody used it. I used it one time, then the next guy, it just broke. And it never, literally after 6 weeks I was there, I think, or 4 weeks I was there, it literally never worked the whole time. That was the biggest way. There was. It was all about the simulator. The biggest thing for me, though, when I went there was when I went there, they basically financed you with a loan, and that is something I would actually recommend for you because here's the thing about the loan. Even it's if you finish the trucking school, then you get a job, the loan was due. That's how it went. In other words, I didn't have to wait 3, 4, 5, 6 months. All I needed to do was submit my social security number and everything, and the loan was on me. I didn't require any family members to lie for me and say I'm paying them this amount of rent and all this little stuff. Because that whole government form was tricky. It was like you had to be damn near destitute to get the money. You had to be, 50% of your money got to go here and 30% of your money got to go here. And it's like, nah, and the thing about them, USA Truck Driver School back then, again, this is back then, I'm not recommending them today. I don't know anything about the company today. I doubt any of the trainers that was there when I was there are there today. I mean, those dudes were in their 40s and 50s when I was there, so they got to be damn near 60 years old. That was 10 years ago, but anyway, well, 11 years ago. But anyway, I'm there, and we're starting to, I'm sitting there and I'm starting to realize this is the better situation. This is exactly what you want. Because now I'm not lying on forms. I'm not going through the government. Everything is perfect. The recruiter's lying to me though. He's got, he's giving me the spiel about one of the things he kept telling me about a company TMC, and I had never heard of TMC. And the TMC stands for the Military Corps. Was one of the worst companies that you could ever work for. If you're a person like me, if you're not a person, if you're a military person, you should definitely work for TMC. If you're not a military person, you should definitely not work for TMC. They're pretty disciplined. They do inspections literally on the road. A DOT safety person can walk up on you, off the road, when you sitting at home, I mean, not off the road, but if you at a truck stop, they could walk up to you and inspect your truck. I mean, it's military, okay? So anyway, he's giving me a spiel about how they got video games in the back of that truck, and then he shows me this low load of pipes, and he's like, "Oh, TMC, you go to TMC, man, it's guaranteed all this money is flatbed." And you see this low level of pipes. Now, these pipes he was showing me had to be 3 feet tall. No, wait. 3 feet tall, maybe 3 feet tall, right? And it's showing this guy tarping in this magazine. It's like, oh, look how small that tarp is. I mean, this dude is laying this on thick. If you go work for any flatbed company, your loads could be 3 feet tall or 13 feet tall. Okay, you could literally get an oversized load. It depends on where you go and what you do, but there's no guarantee you're going to have this easy tarping load. I always tell guys, if you want to do flatbed, drive by some places that do flatbed, like Home Depot at night, or like early in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and you will see dudes untarping at places like Home Depot or other places, or just taking their straps off. Sometimes they have to get up there. Okay, they have to get up on that tall load of roofing or whatever, and that is some feet off the ground, brother. Some feet off the ground. So, anyway, after his spiel, and I go to, the we'll skip the spiel anymore of that, and I started to see he was completely full of shit, and his simulator is broke. I'm starting to wonder, did I make a big mistake? But luckily, it wasn't that big a mistake. I did go get my the one good advice he did give me was that I did get my learner's permit. That was the smartest thing I ever did, because getting your learner's permit before you go to trucking school is one of the smartest things, because it actually helps you have an idea of what you're going to do instead of being completely lost. Because when you go from being a meat cutter to all of a sudden you want to drive a truck, it's a completely different world. And the state, in Michigan, all you got to do is go into the Secretary of State, that's our DMV, and they will literally let you know. They'll give it to you, the book that will explain trucking to you. That'll give you that you can get your certifications on. And that was great. That was a lifesaver. And so anyway, I get all that stuff, and I passed all that. So the first week, a lot of guys didn't do that before they got there. So I'm sitting basically with nothing to do. And we're just watching videos about safety. And at the same time, what I loved was there were recruiters coming in. And also they had driver placement. Now, I didn't even think about driver placement because I was all enthralled with the simulator. The simulator was going to save my soul. Yes, it was, boy. The simulator. Right, it was going to simulate trucking. I was going to know it. But after the simulator debacle, I started going to, I'm just sitting in class watching these safety videos. And every safety video back then, I don't know if it's still the same, every safety video had a Snyder or a Swift truck. Every safety video, every time you saw a truck flipped over, damaged, destroyed, it was a Snyder or it was Swift. Every single one. So I'm sitting